Let us pray. Dear gracious, generous, and merciful God, we stand together on these grounds this afternoon with gratitude in our hearts. We thank you for being a provider of great things and little things, miraculous things, but in a special way, the ordinary things, like the air we breathe, the food we eat, and a place we can call home. On a day like today, we know that we should never take any of these blessings for granted, and that's why we stop at this moment to say thank you. After several years of visioning and planning, meeting, negotiating, packing and moving out, tearing down and building up, moving in and unpacking, finally we can welcome back our returning residents and warmly welcome our newest neighbors now living here at Portner Flats. Lord, bless all those already residing here in this magnificent structure that they now call home. And bless all those in the near and far future who will call it their home as well. And finally, may all who reside here find in all of us who have preceded them the most hospitable of neighbors, and maybe even one day, the best of friends. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Father Smith. St. Augustine's is right across the street, as we all know, and many of our residents' children go to school there, and you've been long involved with the residents here, and we appreciate the support that you gave us and to the residents during the process. So we are so happy to be here today, and we welcome all of you. We're celebrating the return of the residents from their original Portner Apartments to Portner Flats. And we welcome all the new residents to Portner Flats as well. I think you will agree that this has been a very, very dramatic transformation of what once was 48 units of very distressed garden-style apartments on a 1.1 acre site, and the transformation into a modern building with 96 apartments and high-quality amenities. And guess what? It's affordable. That. We had, just a little note, we had a welcome home party here in our penthouse a week ago with the residents. There were tears of joy. I was one of them. It was truly moving. I wish you all could have seen that. It was really fantastic. People were so surprised and very grateful to have endured this ordeal of being off the site for several years and coming back and seeing promises kept. Special thanks indeed go to the board members of the Portner Tenant Association, and we have Ms. Elfrida White, the president of the board, with us. As you all know, the Tenant Association exercised their TOPA rights, and they assigned them to us, Somerset Development, and eventually the partnership with Jonathan Rose and Companies. Jim and I started working with the tenants in 2008. I think that's almost 10 years ago. It seems really hard to believe, and here we are 10 years later. It's really gratifying. I want to, before we start, give a special thanks. We have so many people to thank, and we're going to thank you throughout the course of the speeches. But first of all, to Eagle Point Management, and especially to Santiago de Angulo. I don't know where you are, Santiago. And Shantae Knight and Ashley McCain. Ashley and Shantae, stand up. Stand up, guys. This team has worked tirelessly. First of all, Santiago helped us identify the apartments off-site. He oversaw, along with our staff, the move off of site and bringing people back. And Shantae and Ashley have been working their hearts out here, getting everybody back in, settled, leasing up. It's extraordinary work you're doing, and we appreciate that. We recognize how hard you're working. We have so many people to thank, and I'll be brief here. I just do want to mention my partners, Jim Campbell and Bill Whitman. And we worked Yay, Jim and Bill. And especially on this project, we partnered with Jonathan Rose Companies, and Jonathan came down from New York today, and we were really happy that he's here. I want to give a special shout out to Bill Whitman, who stepped up to the plate in a difficult time on a highly complicated project and worked tirelessly over many months to close the financing on this project. He's a great developer, a financial will, and don't tell anybody, but he's also a lawyer. Bill, I personally thank you, and you know where this is coming from. I thank you so much for everything you've done for us. And our staff at Somerset, Anya Kamara was the project officer. She did a great job. James Ruffing, our managing director, Sarah Scott, Andrew Zaleski, and not last but not least, Natalie Jean, who worked hard to put this together. So that's it, guys. I've done it, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to turn now to the mayor, Mayor Muriel Bowser, who I don't think I need to say much more about her total commitment to affordable housing. Her commitment is strong, it's visible, and it's tangible. It's tangible here at Portner Flats. All of us here, we want to thank you for that commitment and your commitment, the city's commitment to this particular project. We are delighted you're here, and we ask you to say a few words for us.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am just delighted to be on this rooftop in our beautiful city and delighted to be here to celebrate with you, Ms. White, all the tenants of the Portner Apartments, and everyone who is now calling home to the Portner Flats. Let's hear it for our D.C. residents. Father Pat, it's always great to be with you. And when I am on this block at St. Augustine's, you know what I see is I just see Washington. I can go after a mass with Father Pat, and I come out and I see a thriving church that is so diverse and loving and happy, and it really is a true reflection of this community. I have had the privilege of being mayor of my hometown, which is a distinct honor, for 3.5 years. And in that time, we have been very focused on how to continue to make Washington, D.C. a growing and thriving Washington, D.C., but also an inclusive Washington, D.C. We're now 700,000 people in D.C. We haven't been 700,000 people since the 70s when I was born in Washington, D.C., and that's a good thing. You want to be a town where people want to live, where people want to move to, people want to stay, businesses want to open, where kids want to be in our schools. And that's the type of city that we have created. And now is the challenge for every one of us, every single one of us, to make sure that we're using the prosperity that we're creating in this city to help more Washingtonians and ensure more Washingtonians can stay in D.C., buy homes in D.C., put their kids in schools in D.C. And the best way that we can do that is make sure that people have access to safe and affordable housing in all 8 wards. I am really proud of my housing team led by Polly Donaldson at DHCD and Todd Lee at the Housing Finance Agency, who is here. I am so grateful for the commitment from the Council of the District of Columbia and a special leader in terms of affordability and taking care of every resident's well-being is Councilmember Brianne Nadeau from Ward 1. Thank you, Councilmember, for your help and support as well. So I was asked to speak briefly, so I will do that. But just know that we will continue. We've been able to keep our commitment to $100 million every single year in the Housing Production Trust Fund. And what that means It sets us apart from our other cities like ours. But what that means for development teams like Somerset and other nonprofit developers and other for-profit developers is that they know that the city is going to be there. They know that there is a consistent pipeline of funding to help close gaps to get projects done. Now, while we talk about $100 million, we really have invested $1 billion a year when you look at all of our programs that support housing and keeping people in affordable homes, and we're going to continue that commitment. I want to also acknowledge our friends at the AFL-CIO because they have a lot of money to invest in housing. So we're talking about the DC government's money, and we're talking about the private bank's money. But we know, too, that we have a lot of other mission-focused organizations like AFL-CIO who came to us and said, we want to be partners in your efforts, Mayor Bowser, to bring capital and make investments in affordable housing. So when we can leverage our $100 million, thank you, Eric, with their big pot of money. Now, they have members that allow them to have a big pot of money that pay into it, and their members want to make sure that they're getting a great value and that their investments are also aligned with their missions. And I can really think of no better investment in our town than in housing. So I want to thank you for your commitment to our city. So also recognize this because these are some people were asking me recently, what do you think when you see against the continued big challenges for our city and its progress? And it really is how do we continue to make DC more affordable and close income gaps in our city. And so we have to do everything that we can to stay focused on all of those things. And also stay focused on talking and working with each other. A project like this, even though it's been 10 years in the making, and sometimes these projects are complicated, it didn't happen without people talking to each other, without the community and the development community, without the government and private, without institutional partners. And all of that, and I'm willing to bet in 10 years there were some heated discussions. I don't know, but I'm guessing there were some heated discussions. I'm guessing that there are some problems that had to be worked through. I'm guessing that there was some give and some take. And I haven't been involved in a development project that was a good one that didn't have all of those components. So as we think about how we're going to build, we built 5,000 units and we will in 4 years. We can do 10,000 in the next 4 years. And as a region, I know that we need to do 25,000 units. So just remember, when neighborhoods and communities are screaming at the government or screaming at the developer, that's what it takes. It takes some give and take. It takes some fits and starts. And it takes some real commitment to building units. If we can remember that, we will be able to build enough housing and create the type of affordability that allows more Washingtonians to participate in our prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those very, very inspiring words, Mayor. We really appreciate your being here. It's inspiring. And one of the most certain indicators of your commitment to affordable housing has been, in my opinion, your appointment of Polly Donaldson, who had to be the director of the Department of Housing Community Development. She has strengthened the professionalism at DHCD, and she has an outstanding record of achievement in leveraging the city's resources to improve the well-being of the citizens of Washington by providing quality housing to those most in need. DHCD played a critical role in this project by providing an acquisition loan at the right time. We had to match an outsized market offer from a formidable luxury apartment developer who had an offer on the table. This financing from DHCD, along with additional financing through the Jonathan Rose Green City Fund, allowed us to get site control. This set us up and put us on our way to develop the entire site, which is that building over there too, and this building. But most importantly, what it set us on a path to preserve and expand the affordable housing here at Portner Flats. So, Polly, it's been our honor and our pleasure to work with you and your team at DHCD. You are a great partner, and we look forward to new partnerships.
Thank you, Nancy. Good afternoon, everyone. I just always want to start off by saying that you can talk a lot about affordable housing, but if you don't put the resources there and make the commitment to make that vision happen, and that's what our mayor has done, Mayor Bowser. I have to say that makes it such a pleasure to get up every morning and do whatever I can to work with the Department of Housing and Community Development with our great team to get the resources out the door. $100 million. Actually, we've been getting more than $100 million out the door. Last year, $138 million. That's what it's about. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge the council member here, Councilmember Nadeau, and to my fellow members of the housing team, Todd Lee from HFA, Marvin Turner from HUD, and of course, Eric and the Somerset team, development team. It's really great to be here. This is what your trust fund does. This is what it does. It was an acquisition loan at the very beginning. We have a law, the TOPA law, in the district that very few other municipalities have. It gives tenants the right to match an offer, to work with a developer to keep their housing affordable. So this is definitely preservation of existing affordable housing, but even better, it's production of new, and when you can do both in the same project in one of the most expensive areas and hottest real estate areas of the city, that is commitment to anyone who wants to live in the district, whether you've been here 5 minutes or 5 generations. I quote the mayor all the time on this. We have people with long-term roots here in the city, long-term. Many generations want to live and stay, and they want their families to be able to stay in the district. And we have newcomers who want to establish roots here, who want to be part of this vibrant community. And we can make that happen. And that is what the work is that we are doing at the Department of Housing and Community Development. I will keep it brief, but I will say one thing. That commitment that our mayor has and that the council has voted each year to support is unprecedented nationally. We contribute and invest more in affordable housing per capita than any other city in the United States. That's leadership, and indeed was recognized by the Urban Land Institute with the Larson Award this past year for our leadership. We beat out New York, hate to say, New York, Boston, and Denver, and we did that because of the commitment that this administration has shown to affordable housing. We've got a lot more to do. We will be doing more, and we will be investing more. Thank you all. This is a great example. Thank you.
So a little bit more on the financing and how complicated it was to put this deal together. We needed this project, and the affordability would not have been the affordability achieved would not have been possible without tax-exempt bond financing and low-income housing tax credits. So, of course, early in the process, or maybe not so early in the process, I don't know, we went to visit Mr. Todd Lee over at DCHFA, and I believe you had just arrived when we landed at your desk in your office saying, oh, wow, do we have a complicated project for you? And you understood, I think, immediately the importance and the significance of this deal and how complicated it was, and you really helped us to clear any and all roadblocks that inevitably come up on deals, but this one had a lot of complication to it. So we really thank you for that. In addition, we want to thank Steve Napolitano, who is here with us, at his team at Boston Financial, who were the syndicators of the tax credits, and Ed Delaney and his team at Capital One, who served as the tax credit investor. But I would like now to ask Mr. Todd Lee to come to the microphone and say a few words for us.
Good afternoon. First, I want to start off by congratulating Somerset, Jonathan Rose, and most importantly, the tenants of Portner on your new home. So, a couple years back, Mayor Bowser convened the Housing Preservation Strike Force, and she charged us with assessing all of the city's resources and coming up with recommendations and a plan to ensure that Washington, D.C. remained affordable as it continued to prosper. One of the guiding principles for the discussions that we had, was that we wanted to make sure that we preserved each and every unit of affordable housing in the city that was affordable by virtue of covenants, the type of financing on that project, what have you. And I thought at the time, that we were having those conversations, that was daunting, particularly in a city, that was experiencing the type of economic prosperity, that we've been experiencing here in the district, over the last couple decades. We're standing here today, and this project is evidence that goal and that guiding principle is achievable. I mean, not only did we preserve the 48 existing affordable units here, but we've doubled them. We've doubled the number of affordable housing units in a neighborhood that is sought after, amenity filled, and is leading the way as it relates to economic prosperity, and that's quite a feat. And so I'm really, really happy that I had an opportunity, to participate on that strike force along with Polly Donaldson, and I could see, in this project that some of the work that we all collectively did and that, we were challenged by the mayor to complete can and does have the ability to come to fruition. This project also we have special affinity for at the District of Columbia Housing Finance Agency because it's in our neighborhood. We actually had the opportunity every day, to watch this project being built. It seems like yesterday, me and a few members of my team were on our way back from a meeting, across town with some other partners. And, we stopped across the street and we watched as the walls, the exterior walls of, the old Portner apartments were coming down. And it really excited us to see, that this project was really, really getting underway. I thank Jonathan Rose and Somerset, and I want to congratulate you and also, again, thank you for your foresight and your patience as you work to, develop plans for this site. But it also takes money to get projects like this built. DCHFA issued $27 million in tax-exempt bonds in order to get this project built. And we also facilitated the issuance of $14.5 million worth of low-income housing tax credits that Capital One did fund, and we do want to thank our financial partners, for that. We also want to thank our other public sector partners, our U.S. government, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, for credit enhancing our bonds so that the AFL-CIO Housing Investment Trust could actually buy those bonds. They funded our investment, brought it to life, and at the end of the day, made this project happen from a financial standpoint. I have to acknowledge the Housing Production Trust Fund and the investment that was made by DHCD, who is a steward of that pot of money. I say it all the time. Without that type of capital, projects like Portner Flats simply cannot happen. I talked about the AFL-CIO's investment and Capital One's investment, but without, the Housing Production Trust Fund dollars, they can't make those types of investments because our underwriting simply doesn't work. I have to thank Mayor Bowser for challenging us to make these types of projects happen and giving us the fuel that we need to make them happen, through her commitment, $100 million a year in that Housing Production Trust Fund, so that we can continue to deliver projects like Portner Flats because they're absolutely so important. Also want to thank the support of our council and Councilmember Nadeau in particular for her support of Portner Flats. Once again, thank you to the residents. I am so happy for you. Congratulations.
Another key partner in putting this deal together is the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They approved a pass-through contract for the project-based Section 8, which means that the tenants could move off the site during the construction period, retain their subsidy, and be assured that when they returned, their full subsidy would be in place in this beautiful new building. That's key. There are not too many pass-through contracts that get approved, and that was very, very important. Mostly for the protection of the tenants, but also for the underwriting of the financing. HUD also approved a renewal and extension of the HAP contract for 20 years, which is another key piece in the underwriting of the project. And in addition, as Mr. Lee alluded to, HUD issued construction and permanent loan fund financing under the FHA 221D4 program, which was underwritten by our friends at Prudential Capital Mortgage, and I think Alex Fjorst is here. But Mr. Turner, we really want to thank you, your entire staff, including Michelle Porter, who is here, and the entire team. It was so important and so difficult, a complicated project, and you stuck with us here. I'd also like to make just recognize that our friend Melanie Marston, who we lost this past year, her mother is here today along with her 3 brothers, and we want them to know that Melanie is in our hearts, as I know she's still in yours, and she was a wonderful professional, and we worked with her on this project as well as other projects, and we appreciate her assistance on that. So best to you and your family. So Mr. Turner, you have a wonderful team, and can I ask you to come up and speak for all of HUD? Thank you so much. Yeah, I really.
I don't know if I can speak for all of HUD. But anyways, on behalf of Secretary Carson, I want to thank you all, and for those of you that will be living here, welcome home. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. Such a beautiful site. Now, I'm from Philadelphia originally. Hashtag Fly Eagles Fly. But anyway, I'm from Philadelphia originally, and they can take a lesson up and down the East Coast on how we do affordable housing here. Now, you've already recognized my team, but I just want to also recognize my Chief Counsel, Russ Conlon, Eric Johnson in the corner over there. You mentioned Michelle, but I do want to take a quick second, and even though you've recognized them, will the Marston family please stand up, please? Melanie Marston was a colleague of mine and worked extremely hard. This was the last deal, I believe, that she worked on with HUD. She fought a brilliant and strong fight. In her life and in her mind, fighting for affordable housing was one of those things that was key. She fought to the end to make this happen, and we appreciate her for that. You know, each year when we're talking about HUD, each year we have a fairly large portfolio and a fairly large partnership with the city. Whether we're talking about the Department of Housing and Community Development, whether we're talking about DCHFA, whether we're talking about the Housing Authority, whether we're talking about the various projects that we work on with the Deputy Mayor's Office. Each year, we do about $400 million between those for subsidized housing as well. And here's the so what on that, right? Because it's easy to say so what. The so what is whether you're talking about the 10,000 persons or so who are getting the project-based Section 8 that Melody and her team worked on, whether you're talking about the 10,000 or so that are getting in low-rent housing, or the other 10,000 or so that are in voucher programs, 15,000 or so there, or whether you're talking about the 9,000 individuals and families who are using FHA to become homeowners. We want to continue to be major partners with the city, and not just this city, with the I've got the surrounding area as well. May God bless you all. May God continue to bless these United States of America. Thank you.
How could I've got to do my duty here and introduce Council Member Brianne Nadeau, who has been a tireless supporter of Portner Flats and affordable housing in her ward. She's brought life and spark, I think, to the ward, and I know she has many supporters on all of the properties that we have. She has done a lot of outreach and has been tremendously generous of her time and her efforts to make this a better place to live. And I'm not sure, but Councilmember Nadeau, I think we came to you with this project while you were still in your former job. I think you were council member elect at the time. Is that right? Now that I'm thinking about it. And so how long ago was that? That was a few years ago. 4 years ago, and here we are. So thank you very much for being supportive. Also, throughout the process and the neighborhood issues that came up, you really helped very successfully with us working with Clark at the construction team and the project team to resolve those issues, and with the city. So thank you very much, and we're happy you're here today. Will you come and say a few words?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brianne Nadeau. I'm the Ward 1 council member, and it is a pleasure to be here. This is a really special block. Not only this project, but this block. When you think about it, we've got the Reef Center over here, which was a catalyst for this corridor many years ago. And then around the corner, we have what was Campbell Heights. It's now the Paul Lawrence Dunbar Senior Apartments, and they leveraged the property they had to do their renovation. And now we have a brand new Portner development, Portner Flats, that is welcoming back the residents who have waited so patiently for their homes. So this project has been going on as long as I've been council member. So what I want to say is, welcome home, right? This project's been going on actually since I was on the ANC. And so I want to make sure we recognize the ANC who is here representing this single member district too, John Green, Commissioner Green. On his watch, we brought this project home. I lived actually just around the corner for more than 12 years. So I've known this block, and I've known this community for a long time. And today is a celebration of what's possible when the district's commitment to affordability includes a strong commitment to including the voices of the people who will benefit from that affordability. Because I know that Ms. White and all the residents here constantly gave input on what they wanted their community to look like. And today, where we stand, is a perfect example of that. Look at this rooftop. How amazing is this? There are so many properties in Ward 1 that I know families wish they could come hang out on this rooftop. I'm not going to tell them, but I'm just saying you can invite them if you want. Not only have we replaced 48 old units that were in need of repair, we have doubled that. That is really incredible. We're having a conversation now in the city, on the council, in the community, across the city about how are we going to build enough affordable housing? How much do we need? Where's it going to go? And I would say, in reverse order, everywhere, any way we can, and thousands of units. Okay? And I think everyone needs to hear that message. We need to be building affordable housing everywhere in this city. And that's why when we can complete a project like this, where there was so much community buy-in and we don't have to spend time on lawsuits or fighting in community about what does it mean to have people in need living next door to us, we can succeed. So I think everyone who was involved in this project, who made it look seamless from the outside, should give themselves a pat on the back, okay? I'm very proud that since taking office, I've been able to work with this great team up here in the mayor's office, the mayor herself, on saving or adding more than 500 units of truly affordable housing here in Ward 1. Just in Ward 1. 500 units in the past 3.5 years. But we got so much more to do. Now, Portner Flats is a big part of that, right? That's 96 units right off the top. But in order to get it done, in case you haven't been paying attention, it took TOPA, the Housing Production Trust Fund, tax credits, bond financing, Section 8 pass-throughs, some gap financing too, I'm sure, the council, the ANC, the mayor, and all these district agencies. That's what it takes. It's like herding cats. Nancy and Jim? It's like herding cats. So I want to commend the leadership at Somerset Development and all of your partners. Somerset is a crucial partner in Ward 1. There are properties all across the ward that are beautiful and safe and dignified, that people love living in, and they also happen to be affordable. It can be done. It's in no small part due to the incredible staff in the resident services division at Somerset and at Eagle. I see them all here. I work with them pretty much every week. I can tell you I feel like a part of the family, and that is because of those staff. I'm getting texts, I'm getting emails, I'm getting phone calls. It's time for the Easter egg hunt. It's time for the game night. It's time for the women's circle. I'll be there because it's like hanging out with friends and neighbors, because you are my friends and neighbors. How about that? All right. So here's what I want to say to everyone. We need to keep doing more of this. I was in a meeting last week with Nancy and Jim where they told me they have more that they want to do in Ward 1. We are lucky. Yes. We are lucky. So I know this whole team up here is ready to dig in again for whichever property comes next so that we can ensure that the residents who currently live there are taken care of while the project is being constructed, and that they have the opportunity to return when it's finished, and that their voices are heard throughout the entire process. Because if we can do it here, we can do it anywhere in the District of Columbia, and we will. Thank you and congratulations.
Good afternoon, everybody. It looks like the weather is cooperating, and you don't even need the sunglasses that Anya had gotten for everybody. I want to introduce Eric Price with the Housing Investment Trust, who, as was mentioned, the AFL-CIO Housing Investment Trust purchased the tax-exempt bonds, technically the Ginnie Mae securities for the FHA D4, D21D4, close enough, for an amount of money that was critical to this property being able to go forward. But in addition to the actual investment of I think it was actually 24 million, and then the bond was total 27 million. The trust agreed to lock the interest rate Now, I don't know if people recall, but back 2 years ago, I think actually the winter of 2015, everybody was convinced interest rates were going through the roof, and we were facing, and Bill was running numbers, I was running numbers, our team at Jonathan Rose was running numbers. If it went up a quarter of a point, we still had a deal. If it went up a half a point, we may not have had a deal, and if it went up more than that, we would not all be here today. The Housing Investment Trust came to the table and said, we'll lock the rate. Usually finance companies, investors will lock rate for 30 days, 60 days. They agreed to lock the rate at what ended up being 7 months, stuck with it, didn't budge, and that was an integral part of our ability to really put the financing together. So, Eric, thank you very much. And just as part of that, there was use of union labor for this project, and we achieved that with Clark Construction and the building and construction trades through a project labor agreement. And it turned out to be a tremendous success. The quality of the construction here, the efficiency during the course of the construction, and the primary measure of that success was the project is absolutely beautiful. The constructability is absolutely wonderful, and it came in ahead of schedule and under budget. So we are thrilled that that process worked. Eric will talk more about it, and so thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm standing up here today representing the Housing Investment Trust, but I have several colleagues here. I just want them to raise their hands because all of them had a lot to do with our involvement. Thank you. Our involvement in this transaction. I also want to acknowledge we're able to invest in these bonds by working with mortgage bankers, and our partner in this was Prudential Mortgage Capital. Alex, thank you very much for allowing us to participate in this transaction with you. And then I guess I'd like to start off by really thanking the development team. I've been working in affordable housing for over 25 years. I've worked with many, many developers, Jonathan Rose companies, and I just went blank on you guys for a minute. Somerset, I'm sorry. I know Jim and Nancy is who I know. And Bill, they're two of the best companies in the country in doing what you see here. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, I say that also because I think they do more than just build buildings and build units. These are developers who care about not just the quality of the real estate, but these are developers who care about creating a place. And these are developers who care about the residents who live in that place. And that's unique, and that makes them unique. And so they're doing good projects here. They're doing good projects in other places. We hope they do more here, and we hope we're able to participate with them in those projects. So thank you both for that. I want to thank the mayor and her team. She has a terrific team. Again, we invest nationally, and we work with cities all over the country. It wasn't too long ago when the directors of DHCD and the Housing Finance Agency wouldn't even speak to one another, let alone try to take their resources and use them together. And you've got two of the very best. Polly, I was glad to hear that we are the #1 city on a per capita basis in spending money on affordable housing. I've been making that claim for several years now, just so you know. And I've been taking credit for some of it during that period of time. So to have it confirmed by a real outside independent group is fantastic. I appreciate that. But I also want to thank the mayor because enough's not said about her commitment to preservation. Really. All over the country, mayors are dealing with this issue in high growth areas where land costs are high, where there's a lot of job growth. They're all trying to figure this problem out. And you know, they're having task force and they're meeting and they're coming out with papers and they're having a lot of analysis done. But a lot of them are not stepping up with what's really needed, and that's the money to actually finance this affordable housing. And that's to bring in investors like her. It gives confidence to us. When she says that we're going to make sure there's $100 million there available every year, it gives confidence to all of us who are lenders, who are developers, to know this is a place that we should be looking at, and this is a group of people we should be working with. So I want to thank her. I want to thank her on behalf as an investor, but I also live not far from this neighborhood, so I want to thank her as a resident as well. Thank you very much. And finally, just so you know, while we're trying to invest in and get a good return for our investors and the projects we invest in, we also have a mission to create jobs. We're never going to be able to solve this problem of affordable housing by just building affordable housing. We're going to have to, at some point, raise the incomes of people so they can afford where they live. We have to be able to do that. So our mission is also to, when we finance a project, we have a requirement that there's 100% union labor on those projects. We want the workers who work on workforce housing projects to be able to afford workforce housing projects. And the people who invest in our pension fund, whether they be teachers or police or fire, that's why they invest in it, because that's what they want to see happen with their dollars. They want to see a return. They want a retirement and know that's there, but they want to know that they're doing something and impacting the community as well. We're only able to do that by working directly with the building trades in the jurisdictions that we're in. It's with their support and their help that we're able to bring these projects together. We talk about a PLA, project labor agreement, that makes it possible. And in this case, we were able to work with the North American Building Trades Union and under its leadership with Brent Booker, the Secretary-Treasurer. And Brent was invaluable. I want to thank him. And I want to thank his team, because he was really, he gave us the confidence when you talk about, Jim, the rate lock, and being able to stay out there this period of time, knowing that the building trades were working hand in hand with the contractor and the developer on this project, gave us a lot of confidence going forward. So again, thank you. Welcome to the new residents. I'm glad the older residents are back now, back in the neighborhood. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
So, Brent Booker with the building trades, who, as Eric said, is a critical part of making this whole thing happen. So, can say a few words. And I think I jinxed the weather.
I feel the raindrops, so I was going to be brief anyway. Eric, thank you for those remarks. Jim, it doesn't seem that long ago that we sat down and sat down and worked out what this deal was. And Mayor Bowser, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your leadership for this city and for what you're doing for affordable housing. And Jim said it earlier. We pride ourselves on the work we do day in and day out. And bringing a project like this, affordable housing, under budget, ahead of schedule, knowing that we had over 200 union craft workers working on this project who can afford to move into this project. And those 200 craft workers, because of that project labor agreement, because of that community workforce agreement, and because of our partnership with Clark Construction and our subcontractors, we were able to deliver this project. Those 200 craft workers, their families had health insurance while they built this project. They made contributions into the pension funds, who can then make contributions into the AFL-CIO Housing Investment Trust, so we can make more projects like this. So to the residents, welcome home. Welcome back home. Know that you are living in a project, or living in a building where the highest skilled, most highly qualified, best trained workers in the world built this building for you to move back into. Thank you again very much. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Brett. Unfortunately, because the weather is not cooperating, I've been instructed that we're going to move to the ribbon cutting. But first, I do want to recognize the Tenant Association, Ms. Elfrida White, Marlene Frost, Marilyn Galvez. I don't know if Wanda and other folks are here, but and of course Jonathan. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to cut the ribbon, and if the weather cooperates, reassemble, I guess, and finish up, and then invite people after that to go to a tour and some refreshments.
Okay. I'm going to cut the ribbon now. You guys go over.
The ribbon's right here.
They don't move. This is part of the show. This is part of the chocolate show. This is the good one. Oh, I see it. I love
Yeah.